When multiplying decimals, the key is to not line up the decimals. Unlike when you add, subtract, or divide. So you're always lining up your decimals when adding, subtracting, and dividing, but you never line up your decimals when multiplying. So what you're going to do is you're going to multiply your two numbers as if there's no decimals in them, and then you're going to count over the number of decimal places in each original number, add those together, and that tells you how many places to move the decimal in your answer. So let's look at some examples. So as I mentioned, remove the decimals and multiply the numbers normally. Then you're going to count the number of places each decimal is from the end of each number. Then you'll add these figures together to figure out how many total decimal places you need to move the decimal over in your final answer. In this first example, 4 and 1600ths times 2 and 8/10ths, I'd like you to go ahead and multiply this as if the two numbers have no decimal. So here's your multiplication problem. Go ahead and multiply those two numbers. You should end up with 11,648. So now we're going to follow the directions that have to do with figuring out where to put your decimal. So in my first number, 4.16, the decimals moved over 2 places from the end. In the number 2.8, the decimals moved over 1 place from the end of the number. So that's 2 places plus 1 place. So that's a total of 3 places that we need to move our decimal. So we start at the end of our answer and move our decimal over 1, 2, 3 places to get our final answer. So we end up with 11.648 as our final answer. Go ahead and complete this first example and check back to see if you have the correct answer. So here we're multiplying a number with 2 decimal places times a number with 4 decimal places. So our answer should have 6 decimal places. Our answer is 27,945, but we have to move that decimal 6 places. When we do that, we end up with 0.027945. Try this next example and check back to see how you did. In our first number, we have 3 decimal places. In our second one, we have 5 decimal places, so altogether that's 8 decimal places. Well, you just multiply 3 times 8 to get 24, right? So just don't worry about your decimals, don't worry about all those zeros, just multiply 3 times 8. Easy enough, that's 24. Then move your decimal 8 places back from the very end of 24. So as you can see here, I'm moving my decimal 8 places back and then filling in all these zeros as placeholders, and of course you always want to put a 0 on the left hand side of your decimal. So that's your final answer. Go ahead and try this next example and check back to see how you did. So in this example, I have 2 decimal places in my first number plus the 1 decimal place in my second number, so I'm going to move my decimal 3 places in my answer, as you can see right here, and I end up with 136 and 776 thousandths.